the surprise performance was Jason Schwartzman.
As the first host of the Hunger... What was his name? Lucky Flickerman or so. One of the interesting things about the Hunger Games is the moral questions it raises, because if you've seen Squid Game as well, what do humans do when they are put in situations like this? Well, hello and welcome back to Watch and Waffle with myself, Thomas, and my good friend
Joe Levy.
And we watched yesterday at the cinema the brand new film, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is a prequel to the original trilogy of books, which was made into a quadrilogy of films, and it is based on the book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, by Suzanne Collins, I believe. So, Joe, what did you make of it?
I actually was quite surprised with how good it was. There were very mixed reviews of either 5-star or 1-star. The Hunger Games were amazing.
As in the games themselves.
The games themselves. They clearly learned from the first two films that that's what people are there to watch, which is kind of an alarming thought. But it was a really thrilling, really emotional part of the film. I thought, as well, it started slow, but I felt that was necessary to sort of get to know the characters, so that you could feel that emotion in the Hunger Games. The thing I was most impressed with was the casting.
Yeah.
I thought Viola Davis was incredible.
She was. That costume with the red gloves and it looked like blood that was kind of bleeding away to white.
It was epic. I thought she was fantastic. I thought Peter Dinklage was amazing. Every time they were on screen, I was loving it. Rachel Zegler, who controversially was in this film after that whole Snow White thing, because when I watched that video, I was like everyone else, I was like, for goodness sake.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that
she's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
It felt like she was just kind of
slagging
laying into the original, which is this beloved classic. But I did feel for her, because I mean, how much of that is her? How much of it is what Disney have told her to say, or what Gal Gadot has been saying? And you know, to be thrown into these sorts of roles at quite a young age, and she was getting death threats and stuff.
It was far too over the top.
And I think I first saw her in the Steven Spielberg remake of West Side Story, and she was incredible in that. She could sing, she could act really well, and we get to see that in this film. She
was a really interesting character. Her arc was fantastic, and the surprise performance was Jason Schwartzman.
Oh my goodness!
He was literally unbelievably good.
As the first host of the Hunger... What was his name? Lucky Flickerman or so.
He just put... You could just tell he put everything into that role. Like, it's a small role, but he made every line count. He was hilarious. He was iconic. He was
one of the lady behind the screen threw up. and then after this just brutal Hunger Games, he just says to the audience, for any children watching, what you had to see there was truly brutal and horrific. If you're going to be sick, can you do it off screen? It was just... he was excellent. He was loving it, wasn't he?
He was really good.
What about Tom Blyth, who plays President Stowe, who's arguably the protagonist in a way? I mean, I was surprised. We might get into, I think it had a bit of a third act problem. Yeah. But the way the film starts and ends, it's really kind of his story, isn't it? It's the origin story for President Snow. Yeah. But I mean, I thought he did a good job. I mean, I did call him resting glum face after the film, because his natural face is kind of
all the way through it, and emotional scenes with I love you.
Yeah.
And I thought he was good in that transition to the Snow that we hate. Yeah. I just didn't think, compared to the other actors around him, I didn't think he was as good as them, but I thought he was very, very good. Yeah. So the film had a lot of positives, but you have the main event of the Hunger Games, and then you've got like an entire hour afterwards, which felt very dragged, which was a shame, because the first sort of two-thirds of the film I thought were brilliant, and then it just dragged on and on and on. And I get it, because it needed to show that change from likable Snow that you now like, he's lovable, why is this change made? And seeing that change to the Snow that we hate. But it was too slow. I just felt it was too long, and it didn't need to be that long, which was a shame.
Slow Snow.
Slow Snow.
Yeah. It was interesting to see him as a peacemaker in District 12.
Yeah.
And gradually you see him becoming more manipulative and lying about stuff, even to Lucy Gray. Did you buy the romance between them and the way that kind of then fell apart?
Yeah. I think the romance at the beginning was interesting because, he's in there. His morals are clearly mixed. He's in there for himself.
Yeah.
And then bonds with this woman. And you can see that when he's watching her in the Hunger Games. I felt, though, when he went to District 12, lovely move. He did it. He followed his heart. But then the breakdown, I still felt that they didn't get that right because I thought that Rachel Zegler loved him. You see subtle moments of breaking down, and then there's a switch when he's like, oh, I killed 3 people instead of 2. And it's that moment where you see the change.
Yeah.
But I felt it was too sudden, which was a shame. And then I felt that his...
And then she's just like, I'm going to go out and gather some Katniss. And then you just have that moment where he's in the woods shooting at the birds that are kind of carrying her song. So we don't know what happened to her.
No, and I like that. I like the fact.
What did happen to her? Is she still alive?
I think she still is.
So are they going to make another film?
I don't think they will. I think because that final third was so long that you could question maybe they'll make that into a film to see the change from good snow to bad snow. And thankfully they didn't because there's not enough there.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to sort of stick that at the end of a massive climatic Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And just keep going with, oh no, we can't make this into a film, but we're just gonna tell it in the same story. Which was a bold move. I just felt it didn't need to be that long. Mm-hmm. They didn't need to have everything in that third. So it was a difficult task to do, but I don't think it was a project that was like, we're just going to do it, we're just going to rush it. I felt it was very well made. It's a shame that it is going to get badly reviewed, because critically, because of the ending, it's not that good of a film, which is a shame because on an enjoyment level, it's brilliant.
We do have to mention there is a scene, and you might not have noticed this, but during the film, the bar scene where this bar fight breaks out, and you see Snow walking along, and then suddenly a fist just comes in from the corner, from the side of the frame, and punches him full in the face. And then he just carries on walking. You don't find out who that person was.
It's so random because, like, the fight scene is like, oh, what's going on here? And Snow's like, I'm going to protect Rachel Zegler. And then out of nowhere, this dude just goes, bang! And he's just such a solid hit. And he takes it. So it's just like, all right then, it just keeps going. And I saw you dying, which then made me die. So we were crying for like, I think 10 minutes.
I don't think it was meant to be funny, but we found it flipping hilarious. I
so
had my
random.
fist in my mouth. One of the interesting things about the Hunger Games is the moral questions it raises, because if you've seen Squid Game as well, it is fascinating, what do humans do when they are put in situations like this? And it made me think, because we're both Christians, like what would I do if I was chosen or as a tribute to participate in the Hunger Games? And then I realised, actually, no, we don't need to imagine that, because there were the Roman gladiatorial games, which were basically Hunger Games. You have a council of Christians, but they didn't fight. They just kind of proclaimed Christ as they were dying. So I guess that would be the response. I don't think I'd want to run to the cornucopia and grab a weapon and start like cutting people to pieces. I think those were the interesting questions that the film raises when Snow realizes the whole world is a Hunger Games. We're living in an arena. What's disturbing about his character is that he thinks of himself as the victor. In the Hunger Games of life, it's survival of the fittest, and the weak will perish. And as Christians, we want to say, well, as most people watching the film would look at him and go, no, that is horrific, and rightfully so. Do you have anything else to add, Jack?
I had a good time in the cinema. I enjoyed watching it. Just on a critical level, I think it is going to get slated quite badly. Which is a shame. Yeah,
me too. And I enjoy watching it with you. Shall we have a waffle?